In that instant, Paul saw how Stilgar had been transformed from the Fremen Naib to a creature of the Lisan al-Gaib, a receptacle for awe and obedience. It was a lessening of the man, and Paul felt the ghost wind of the jihad in it. I have seen a friend become a worshipper, he thought. As a man of unwavering conviction and steadfast leadership, Stilgar stands as a living barometer of the Fremen people's transformative journey through the early parts of the Dune saga. As the story unfolds, Stilgar's growing faith in Paul Atreides, who the Fremen come to believe in as their messiah, becomes a gauge to measure the ever-deepening unity and growing power of the Fremen as they chart a path to galactic domination. In this video, I'd like to examine the character of Stilgar and consider how his part in the story of Dune contributes to the author's themes of loyalty, tradition, and the power of faith. Spoiler warning if you are unfamiliar with Frank Herbert's Dune. Stilgar is a native of the desert planet Arrakis, a world renowned for its harshness and mystery. Thousands of years ago, his ancestors, the Zensuni Wanderers, migrated across the universe as they fled persecution from Imperial raiders and eventually settled on Arrakis, Dune, a world where Coriolis storms are so fierce they can strip flesh from bone, where monstrous sandworms patrol, and where every drop of water is precious. Stilgar's ancestors had to become one with the desert to endure its many perils and survive. By adapting to the environment, they experienced a rebirth of sorts, becoming known as Fremen, a people forged by the desert into a fierce warrior society where only the strong survive. Stilgar embodies the quintessential Fremen traits: robust strength and vitality, along with deep spirituality and desert wisdom. His austere exterior is a testament to the unforgiving landscape of his home and a reflection of his people's lifestyle shaped by survival and resilience. As leader of the tribe of Sietch Tabr, Stilgar upheld the Fremen law that determines who is granted the authority of Naib. Paramount to Fremen endurance is their people's priority to maintain strong leadership. According to custom, authority isn't merely inherited, it is an honor earned through the trial of combat. In order to win the respect and obedience of a tribe, a Fremen wishing to ascend to the role of Naib must prove themselves the strongest, one capable of ensuring the tribe's security and water supply. If a Naib died in the desert, whoever defeated the strongest of their tribe would become the new leader, or, as in the case of Stilgar, by challenging and defeating the preceding Naib in ritual combat. Even close bonds of friendship do not impede this practice. The Fremen have a saying, God created Arrakis to train the faithful, a deeply spiritual people like their Zensuni ancestors. The Fremen's entire identity and way of life was molded by their environment. As Naib, Stilgar is ever mindful of the needs of his tribe, both physically and spiritually. Among the Fremen, a prophecy exists of a Bene Gesserit and her offspring who hold the key to their future. While Stilgar remained suspicious of outsiders, he could not ignore the signs and whispers of prophecy stirred by the arrival of House Atreides, the new custodians of Arrakis. Paul, the young ducal heir of House Atreides and son of the Bene Gesserit Lady Jessica, signaled to the Fremen the real possibility of the coming fulfillment that an off-world prophet, the Lisan al-Gaib, would lead them to paradise. Stilgar's initial interactions with the Atreides were cautious yet curious. He sensed that something significant was happening, but he was also mindful of the potential dangers that these outsiders could bring. His relationship with Paul and Lady Jessica evolved significantly, especially after the brutal Harkonnen siege that left House Atreides in ruins. The seeds of trust that the late Duke Leto had sown with Stilgar had opened an opportunity for refuge in his tribe. While he remained hopeful, Stilgar sought evidence to corroborate their messianic prophecy. He studied Lady Jessica and scrutinized Paul's grasp and acceptance of Fremen customs and traditions, recognizing that their prophesied Mahdi would be deeply acquainted with their ways. Stilgar gradually came to view Paul Atreides as the fulfillment of this prophecy. Paul's character, wisdom, and abilities rapidly blossomed under Stilgar's mentorship. As an astute observer, he began to see in Paul the very signs that were foretold in the prophecies. Paul's rapid adaptation to the Fremen ways, his insights into their traditions, and his display of courage and leadership all pointed to the realization that Paul might indeed be the Mahdi. However, this realization was not immediate or easy. Stilgar's transition from skeptic to believer required evidence, careful consideration, and the alignment of multiple factors. His journey reflected the larger societal shifts within the Fremen, as they too began to embrace Paul as their leader and Messiah. However, the turning point was not just Paul's acceptance of their traditions, but his embodiment of them, including his successful ride of a sandworm, a symbol of his mastery over the spirit of the desert itself. This pivotal moment was part of a major signal to the Fremen that the time was coming for Paul Muad'Dib to assert his authority and call Stilgar out in ritual combat, upholding their firmly held tradition. It was a moment Stilgar himself had anticipated. It was their way. In a scene charged with tension and emotion, Paul's refusal to challenge his friend and mentor stunned the Fremen. Rejecting a tradition that had long defined their society, Paul argued that such a duel would weaken them on the eve of a vital assault against their true enemies, the Harkonnens. His reasoning, still rooted in the spirit of their traditions that were intended to strengthen their people, led to Stilgar's fervent acceptance of Paul as the voice from the outer world, the Lisan al-Gaib, the Mahdi who would lead them to paradise. This was a turning point not just for Stilgar, but a defining event in the transformation of the Fremen people. Stilgar had gone from being a friend and mentor to Paul to being a loyal worshipper of Muad'Dib. It marked a fundamental shift from a society strictly governed by tradition to one guided by a fervent belief in Paul Muad'Dib and the promise of a future that he embodied. Stilgar's own transformation was indicative of the Fremen's shift from a secluded and isolated society to a mighty force that would eventually change the balance of power in the known universe. Stilgar would become a central figure in the unfolding jihad that the Fremen would soon unleash upon the galaxy. Ultimately, Stilgar's interactions with the members of House Atreides, his search for signs of messianic fulfillment, and his eventual acceptance of Paul as the Mahdi all serve to illustrate the complex interplay between loyalty, tradition, faith, and the inescapable march of destiny. Throughout the rest of his life, despite much turmoil and many tests of faith, Stilgar remained a constant companion, fierce guardian, and loyal follower of Muad'Dib. His story is a testament to the power of belief, the adaptability of cultures, and the profound transformative influence that a single charismatic leader can wield over an entire civilization. But I'm curious to know what you think about the Fremen leader Stilgar as a true believer in Muad'Dib. Are there any particular moments in his journey or aspects of his faith that stand out to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.